Her name was Amelia Earhart. To some, she was the queen of the air. To others, a reckless dreamer chasing storms and shadows. But to the world, she was something greater, a symbol of courage, freedom, and the human spirit's refusal to stay grounded. And then, she was gone. Vanished into the vast emptiness of the Pacific Ocean on July 2, 1937. No distress call. No wreckage. No body. Just silence. And that silence has echoed for more than 8 decades. Today, we peel back the layers of myth, mystery, and conspiracy. Today, we ask the question, what really happened to Amelia Earhart? Before we uncover her disappearance, we must first understand why the world cared so deeply. Chapter 1. The Making of an Icon. Amelia wasn't born into privilege. She wasn't expected to change the world. She was born in 1897 in Atchison, Kansas, a small town where girls were expected to follow narrow paths, bound by rules and tradition. But Amelia was different. As a child, she climbed trees higher than any boy dared. She built makeshift sleds, raced down hills, scraped her knees, and smiled through the blood. She collected newspaper clippings about famous women, scientists, lawyers, explorers, dreaming not of domestic life, but of discovery. In a world that told her no, she whispered back, "Watch me." And then came the spark that would ignite her destiny. In 1920, she paid $1 for a short plane ride at an airfield in Long Beach, California. The moment the wheels lifted, Amelia's life changed forever. She later wrote, "As soon as I left the ground, I knew I had to fly." That single flight turned a restless dreamer into a relentless pursuer of the sky. Amelia trained under female pilot Nita Snook, one of the few women aviators of the time. Imagine it. The 1920s. Planes were fragile, noisy, temperamental machines made of wood, canvas, and steel. Engines sputtered. Wings groaned. Accidents were common. But Amelia climbed into those cockpits without hesitation. She didn't just fly, she pushed limits. By 1922, she was setting altitude records, climbing higher than most male aviators dared. In 1932, she became the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean, a feat so dangerous that only Charles Lindbergh had done it before. When she landed in Ireland after 14 hours of battling storms, freezing winds, and near disaster, the world erupted in awe. This was no longer just Amelia Earhart. This was a global icon. Amelia's face appeared on magazine covers. She wrote books. She designed a clothing line for women who wanted the same daring spirit. She became a voice for equality, arguing that women had just as much right to dream and to risk as men. But fame came with pressure. Each flight had to be bigger, bolder, more dangerous. Crowds didn't want to see a pilot land safely. They wanted to see history made. And Amelia felt that weight pressing on her wings. She wasn't reckless. She was calculating. But she knew the truth. In aviation, the line between triumph and tragedy was razor thin. Yet, as the 1930s marched forward, Amelia began planning something that would dwarf every flight she had ever attempted. In 1937, Amelia announced her boldest mission yet. She would fly around the entire globe. This wasn't just about adventure. It was about proving what was possible. About showing that the skies belonged to anyone brave enough to claim them. The route stretched over 29,000 miles, crossing deserts, jungles, and oceans. She wouldn't be alone. Her navigator, Fred Noonan, would sit by her side, guiding her through uncharted stretches of sky. The aircraft, a Lockheed Electra 10E, sleek, silver, and fast, but still fragile compared to today's machines. Every leg of the journey carried risks: fuel shortages, storms, mechanical failure, navigational errors. But Amelia believed in the mission. She believed in herself. And she believed the world would watch her prove, once again, that no barrier was unbreakable. Yet, behind the applause and excitement, shadows gathered. Some fellow aviators whispered that her Electra wasn't equipped for the Pacific stretches. Others worried about Noonan, who battled alcoholism. And even Amelia's own husband, George Putnam, confessed deep fears about what might happen. But Amelia pressed on. She told the press, with her usual calm conviction, "One of my favorite phobias is that women cannot stand up to the demands of the air. I know we will prove otherwise." And so, in May 1937, she lifted off from Oakland, California, beginning the journey that was meant to cement her immortality. But history had other plans. For weeks, Amelia and Noonan soared across continents, triumph after triumph. Brazil, Africa, India, Australia. Each landing was greeted by crowds cheering for the woman who was rewriting history. And then, on July 2, 1937, they reached the most dangerous leg of all, the vast Pacific Ocean. Their next destination was a tiny speck of land, Howland Island, a dot in the middle of nowhere. A place so small, it looked almost invisible on maps. As the Electra disappeared into the dawn sky, Amelia's voice crackled faintly over the radio. "We are on the line. 157-337. We are running north and south." And then, silence. Amelia Earhart had vanished. What happened next would ignite the greatest aviation mystery of all time. Chapter 2: The Final Flight. For more than a month, Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan had danced with destiny. They had crossed oceans, traced the edges of continents, and pushed their silver Electra across skies few pilots had ever dared to enter. And now, in the summer of 1937, they faced the most dangerous test yet: the Pacific Ocean. A stretch so vast, so unforgiving, that a single error, one wrong calculation, one missed signal, could erase them forever. And somewhere in those skies, that's exactly what happened. Flying around the world was no easy feat, even for Amelia. Her final path meant leaping from La, New Guinea, to a pinpoint on the map, Howland Island. It was more than 2,500 miles away, an endless stretch of open water with nothing in between. To reach it, Amelia would have to rely entirely on fuel, instruments, and the voice of her navigator, Fred Noonan. But Howland was tiny, just 2 miles long, barely a whisper of land against the waves. Finding it in the immensity of the Pacific would be like searching for a grain of sand in a desert. Still, Amelia believed. She prepared meticulously, checked every wire, every gauge. Noonan studied his charts, plotted their celestial navigation. And on the dawn of July 2, 1937, they lifted off from La, engines roaring, as the Pacific stretched before them like an endless blue abyss. At first, the flight went as planned. Amelia radioed occasional updates: weather conditions, speed, fuel. But as the hours passed, small problems began to surface. Headwinds stronger than expected. Clouds obscuring Noonan's navigation stars. Their progress slowed. Fuel drained faster than anticipated. On the ground, the U.S. Coast Guard cutter Itasca waited off Howland Island, its radio ready to guide Amelia in. But communication was spotty, broken, distorted. The Itasca sent messages. Amelia never seemed to hear them. She kept calling, her voice faint, growing more urgent. "We are about 200 miles out. We must be on you, but cannot see you." Her signal was strong. Her plane must have been close. but she couldn't hear their replies. The ocean, it seemed, had swallowed their voices. Then came the last words anyone would ever hear from Amelia Earhart. "We are on the line 157-337. We are running north and south." A navigation line. A desperate attempt to describe her course, searching for the invisible island below. And then, silence. No mayday. No farewell. Just nothing. The Electra was gone. News of Amelia's disappearance swept across the globe like wildfire. Headlines screamed, "Amelia Earhart missing." Crowds gathered in disbelief. How could the most famous woman in the world, a symbol of courage, vanish into thin air? President Franklin Roosevelt ordered an immediate search. The U.S. Navy and Coast Guard launched the largest rescue mission in history at the time. Dozens of ships, planes, and thousands of sailors combed the Pacific. For weeks, they scoured the waters, searching for wreckage, debris, any trace of Amelia and Noonan. But they found nothing. No oil slick. No floating wing. No bodies. It was as if the Pacific itself had conspired to hide them. With each passing day, hope dimmed. Whispers began. Had she run out of fuel and plunged into the waves? Had she missed Howland and drifted off course to some deserted island? Or had something more mysterious happened? Amelia's husband, George Putnam, refused to give up. He begged for the search to continue, pleaded with officials, clung to the faint hope that Amelia was alive, stranded somewhere, waiting to be found. But after 2 weeks, the official search ended. The Pacific kept its secret. And so the legend of Amelia Earhart's disappearance was born. On paper, the story should have ended there. A tragic accident, another victim claimed by the unforgiving skies. But it didn't. Because soon, strange reports began to emerge. Fishermen swore they saw wreckage on remote islands. Locals in the Pacific spoke of foreign prisoners taken by the Japanese. Even secret government files hinted at truths too dangerous to reveal. And so the question grew louder, darker, more urgent. Did Amelia Earhart really crash into the sea? Or was she hiding in plain sight all along? Chapter 3. The theories emerge. The official line was simple. Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan had run out of fuel. Their Electra slipped beneath the Pacific waves, leaving nothing but questions. But the human mind rarely settles for silence. And soon, whispers grew into theories, each one more tantalizing, more chilling than the last. Because what if the ocean wasn't the end? What if Amelia's story didn't stop at that last radio call? The first and most logical explanation was simple. Amelia crashed into the sea. Navigation was difficult. Clouds blocked Noonan's stars. Radio contact with the Itasca was broken. The Pacific headwinds chewed through their fuel reserves. So when Amelia's final transmission came, "We are on the line 157 to 337, running north and south," it could have been her last attempt to align her position. And then, the inevitable. The Electra's engines coughed, sputtered, died. The plane plunged into the sea. For decades, this was the explanation most experts clung to. And yet, no wreckage was ever found. Even today, countless expeditions with sonar, submarines, and drones have combed the waters near Howland Island. Some claim to have found metallic anomalies on the ocean floor. But still, no definitive proof. The ocean keeps its secrets well. But if Amelia didn't sink with her plane, then, where did she go? One possibility lies on a lonely coral atoll called Nikumaroro, about 350 miles southeast of Howland. In 1940, a British colonial officer discovered human bones, the remnants of a campfire, and what appeared to be part of a woman's shoe. The bones were examined but dismissed at the time as male. Decades later, researchers revisited the files. Forensic scientists argued that the measurements were consistent with a woman of Amelia's height and build. And more clues emerged. Fragments of a compact mirror. A sextant box similar to Noonan's. Evidence of survival. Fish bones. Clams opened in unusual ways. Could Amelia and Fred have missed Howland, landed on Nikumaroro's reef, and struggled to survive before succumbing to the island's harsh isolation? Some believe the island holds their unmarked graves to this day. But skeptics argue the evidence is circumstantial, the bones lost, the story incomplete. And so the Nikumaroro theory, while compelling, remains just that, a theory. Then comes a darker possibility. The 1930s were a time of tension. Japan's empire was expanding across the Pacific. Suspicion and secrecy clouded the waters. What if Amelia Earhart didn't vanish at sea? What if she strayed off course and into the hands of the Japanese military? Rumors swirled after the war. Islanders in the Marshall Islands told stories of a woman pilot and her companion captured by Japanese forces. Some claimed to have seen a plane crash near Saipan. Others swore they saw Amelia imprisoned, even executed. In the 1960s, former U.S. Marines reported hearing whispers during the war that the famous lady pilot had died in Japanese custody. And in 2017, a photograph surfaced from the National Archives. It appeared to show two Westerners, a tall woman with Amelia's build and haircut, and a man resembling Noonan, sitting on a dock in the Marshall Islands under Japanese guard. The photo made headlines around the world. Was this proof that Amelia had survived her final flight? Skeptics quickly cast doubt. Some argued the photo was misdated, showing tourists after the war. Others claimed it was too blurry to be definitive. Still, the theory refuses to die. Because if Amelia had been captured, it might explain why the US government kept so silent. But why hide the truth? Which brings us to perhaps the most dramatic theory of all. Some believe Amelia Earhart's final flight wasn't just about adventure. It was a cover for something far more dangerous: espionage. The idea goes like this. Earhart was working for the US government, using her world flight as a pretense to gather intelligence on Japanese military positions in the Pacific. Her disappearance, then, wasn't an accident, but a mission gone wrong. Supporters of this theory point to her friendship with high-ranking officials, her celebrity status that gave her unusual access, and the timing, just years before World War II erupted. If Amelia had been captured while spying, the US may have buried the truth to avoid conflict or embarrassment. It sounds like the plot of a movie. But for some, the lack of wreckage, the silence of governments, and the lingering rumors suggest more than coincidence. Four competing theories. Each one with its evidence. Each one with its gaps. She crashed and sank. She landed on Nikumaroro. She was captured by the Japanese. She was on a secret spy mission. But which, if any, is the truth? Amelia Earhart's disappearance has become less about facts and more about what people need to believe. A tragic accident. A survival story. A wartime secret. And every time it seems the mystery is solved, another clue, another rumor, another photograph emerges to reignite the fire. For decades, the debate raged. But then, in the shadows of archives and laboratories, new discoveries began to surface. Declassified government files. Re-examined remains. Forensic breakthroughs. And suddenly, the question was no longer just where Amelia vanished, but whether the truth had been deliberately buried. Chapter 4. What really happened? For more than 80 years, Amelia Earhart's disappearance has haunted history. The world has debated, searched, and speculated. But in recent decades, science and secrecy have collided, offering tantalizing glimpses into what may have really happened that July morning in 1937. In 1991, researchers from the International Group for Historic Aircraft Recovery, known as TIA, returned to Nikumaroro Island. There, they uncovered fragments of aluminum they believed matched Amelia's Electra. They also found remnants of a woman's shoe, a glass jar resembling 1930s cosmetics, and fire pits containing animal bones. Even more compelling, those bones found in 1940, long dismissed as male, were reanalyzed using modern forensic techniques. A 2018 study suggested they matched Amelia's height, weight, and proportions with over 99% certainty. Was this the proof that Amelia had survived the flight, only to die stranded on a deserted island? Perhaps. But without DNA, the answer remains elusive. The bones themselves. Lost decades ago. The island whispers its secrets, but never shouts them. Meanwhile, others have refused to abandon the crash and sink theory. High-tech expeditions have scoured the Pacific near Howland Island. Sonar scans revealed strange anomalies deep beneath the waves, shapes that could be debris fields, landing gear, or fuselage. Some divers claim they've seen metallic scraps resembling the Electra, but every time hope surges, the ocean swallows it back. If Amelia is there, the Pacific is guarding her jealously. And then, there are the files. Declassified documents suggest US intelligence had intercepted Japanese communications mentioning an American woman pilot in the Pacific. Witnesses in the Marshall Islands told stories of a plane crash, of prisoners taken. Even decades later, elders spoke of a tall foreign woman, always described as light-haired, commanding, different. Some former soldiers swore Amelia had been captured. A few even claimed she died on Saipan, under Japanese guard. But was this the truth? Or folklore, twisted over time? One thing is certain: if Amelia had been captured, the US government would have had every reason to hide it. In 1937, admitting it might have ignited a war America wasn't ready for. And so, the spy theory persists. Supporters argue that Amelia's global flight path was unusual, passing over strategically sensitive areas. Her connections to high-ranking officials. The timing, on the eve of global war. Could Amelia have been tasked with photographing Japanese bases under the guise of adventure? And if captured, did Washington bury the truth to protect itself? No documents prove this. But absence of proof is not proof of absence. And with so many files missing or destroyed, questions remain. At the end of every theory lies one simple truth: we don't know for certain. Amelia Earhart may rest beneath the Pacific waves. She may have perished on a lonely coral atoll, gazing at the horizon one last time. She may have been silenced by enemies, or betrayed by the very government she served. But her legacy is more than her disappearance. She was a pioneer, a woman who refused to accept limits, who stared at a sky full of impossible and said, "Why not?" Her courage inspired millions. Her mystery keeps her immortal. Perhaps someday, sonar will pull the Electra from the deep. Perhaps DNA will confirm the bones on a forgotten island. Perhaps a dusty file in a hidden archive will finally speak. Until then, Amelia Earhart remains both legend and ghost. Forever flying, forever missing, forever remembered. The disappearance of Amelia Earhart isn't just history. It's a mirror, reflecting our endless hunger for answers, and our fear of questions that may never be solved. But tell me this: what do you believe? Was it the ocean, the island, the empire, the secret mission? Drop your thoughts below. I'd love to hear which theory you find most convincing. And if you want more untold stories, more mysteries the world tried to bury, make sure to subscribe, because history's greatest secrets are still waiting, and together we'll uncover them.